Have you ever wondered why sometimes business seems to struggle and there's no apparent reason for it? And if you're in the cocoon of a city, you may actually have overlooked the importance of what's going on with the big drought that we're having here in Australia right now. And this actually applies to any parts of the world that are currently in drought or going through drought. So here in Australia, we're actually going through one of the worst droughts we've seen in a really long time. And when you're in the city and the city environment, it doesn't seem to be something that we focus on too much. It's just something that's happening out in the bush, and we hear about the drought and we hear about the plight of farmers and things like that. But our days are so busy that we don't actually really take time to think of the ramifications of what's going on because of a drought. And it's only now when it's starting to affect the people in the city through a drop-off in business or a drop-off in trade, we start to understand the effects that it's having right across the country and not just in an isolated patch. So we've got to look at why these things affect what happens in the cities and what the early signs of this is. And I do a lot of traveling. I get out into the bush a fair bit and I can see firsthand what's going on out there. And we hear of some places that are going to run out of water not too far down the track. And that's a big fear, a lot of people. So we've got people rationing water and things like that. That makes it really hard to grow anything. Even cattle, water for a day is about 200 litres of water in the summertime. So that's a lot of water to provide one cow to keep it sustaining. You know, if you don't have beautiful green pastures, you've got to supplement that stock with other things like hay and different things like grains, those sorts of things. And that costs money. So again, the farmer's not getting the yield out of their stock, and that's just cattle. Now, if we look at other areas like, primary producers who are producing fruit and vegetables, and yes, there's innovations in farming which has made things a lot easier, and we can be more frugal with our water and be more effective. But you're not getting the yields that you would have if you have plentiful water around. And so the drought is actually affecting things in ways that most people never consider, particularly if you're in a big city. And I'll just run through a couple of things that I notice. If you're a farmer, some of the things that you're buying is you're not going out buying new tractors, you're not going out buying replacement parts for the vehicles that you currently have, because you just don't have surplus funds. You're not doing fencing, you're not doing irrigation, you're not doing new dams, you're not building any of these sorts of things. And certainly if your stocks are low, you've got your stocks down, you're not going to be investing in things like vets, you're not going to be investing in treatments for them to keep them sustained because you just don't have the stock there. Furthermore, you don't have the surplus funds to do that. So there's no growth. That means that the farmer coming into town is not spending additional money at the co-op, and then he's not exporting his goods either. So when I mean export out of the farm, because he doesn't have the produce to do that. So the transport system starts to fall down. So you've got trucking companies with people on staff. You've got people who look after the trucks then aren't repairing the trucks because they're not doing the mileage that they normally would do. And then you've got the oil company that supplies the mechanics that are doing that, and they're not getting the yield of the oil put through because the trucks just aren't doing the mileage that they normally would. And that's just one area of the chain. And if you look at the supply chain, where you go from paddock to plate, as we often refer to it, at the end of the day, when you've got limited stock, it costs more to produce, and when there's less of it, it costs more to buy. So now we've got restaurants who are affected by the cost of the products that they produce is now being increased, and so therefore they can't get the same yield themselves. They're employing people, they're paying rents, all those different things. So it's a knock-on effect that happens right from the farmer. And this is something that a lot of people overlook when we say, the farmers have got it great. We used to have in this country a really good system where we looked after farmers, but what we've seen, progressive governments have just eaten away at the farmer's profit, and they've eaten away at the farmer's ability to actually be the engine of our country. And this is going on right around the world. We need farmers to be successful. We need farmers to be really In fact, it'd be great if farmers were the richest people in this country, because if they were the richest people in the country, what happens is the rest of the economy flows as a result. They're spending money, they're buying new tractors, they're putting fencing in, they're putting dams in, they're putting irrigation in, and all that has a flow on back to the organizations who supply those things. So governments who actually disregard support for farmers in drought time are actually hurting the economy, and they don't even realize it because they're sitting in their beautiful office in a city somewhere that they don't necessarily see it. And you don't understand how much these people are going through until you actually get out there and see it, and see how could they possibly be making any money out there when it is so bad in so many regions. Now, this country in Australia here, we go through a lot of droughts. It's part of the normal cycle, but we often don't plan for droughts, and we don't advise on what goes on in droughts. And we do need to plan for these things, and we should be building infrastructure right now to support the farmers through the next drought that we're going to have. And we will come out of it, but at what cost? What is the cost it's going to have to not only the farming community, but also now to the rest of the country that's starting to feel the effects of this drought? And it could very well put Australia into a recession just because we've slowed down our ability to produce, and that has a knock-on effect to everything. So don't discount that. If it's something that's going on with your business right now, it could have a huge effect. Thanks for listening. If you liked the video, please tick the like button down the bottom, subscribe to the channel, and also tick the bell so that way you get notifications when we post a new video up. Hope you liked it. Thanks for listening, and I hope the drought doesn't affect you too badly. Cheers.